So people talk about the buy, borrow, die method like it's some secret strategies only billionaires can use. But yes, Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos do it at a scale that most of us will never reach or fathom. But the core math works at any portfolio size. The question is, how much do you actually need? That's what I'm doing today. I ran the math, the LTV ratios, the borrow rates, the return assumptions, what it actually takes to pull this off without the margin loan spiraling on you. Welcome back to another episode of Almost Wealthy. Let's get into it. So how do these loans actually work? If you take your brokerage account, the taxable one, that's collateral. You can borrow against it. How much can you borrow against it is tied to something called the loan to value, which is also called the LTV. At M1 Finance, you can borrow up to 50% of your portfolio value, provided that your taxable brokerage account has at least $2,000 in equity. So on a $100,000 portfolio, that's $50,000 available to borrow. And at $1 million, that's $500,000 you can borrow. The current M1 borrow rate is 5.65% annually. That's what you pay on whatever balance is outstanding. There are some alternative solutions. For instance, Interactive Brokerage has low rates as well. You can also get a SB lock from your bank at a competitive rate if you have a sizable portfolio. But for this breakdown, I'm using M1 since that's what I actually use. One thing I want to bring caution to is that you don't have to borrow at or near your maximum LTV. That's how you get a margin call, where if your portfolio drops, the brokerage forces you to either deposit money or sell your assets to bring the ratio back down. In real life strategy, you stay well underneath this limit. I'll be using 15% LTV as a target for this analysis, not the max. Let's talk about the math. The only thing that actually matters here is the portfolio growing faster than the debt. My portfolio blend return is 4.8%. That's across SCHG, SPYI, GPIQ, and SCHD combined. My borrowed rate is 5.6%. So without dividends, the spread doesn't even actually work. It actually is negative. The debt grows faster than the portfolio. That's the whole point of what I'm about to show you. The spread alone doesn't mean you can borrow unlimited amounts because the loan itself compounds. If you borrow $50,000 and you don't pay the interest, next year you'll owe $50,000 plus the interest. The loan grows. If you borrow more each year to live off that, the math has to stay in balance. But let's go deeper and talk about the formula. The formula that takes what you need per year divided by the spread. But without the dividends, my spread is negative, which means there is no portfolio size that makes this suitable. The loan just keeps growing no matter what. That's why the dividend side isn't optional. Here's what actually changes the math, is dividends. If my dividends are paying the interest on the loans, the spread gets wider. At a $50,000 portfolio value generating around $2,400 a year in dividends, those dividends start chipping away at the interest owed. By time I'm at a phase 10 target, which I talked about in my previous videos, dividends essentially zero out the interest costs entirely. And then the math for suitable borrowing gets significantly better. All right, let's go over a few scenarios. So pick the one that's closest to you. So scenario one, $50,000, no dividends cover their interest, return 4.8, borrow rate is 5.7, and the spread is negative. It doesn't work. The loan grows faster than the portfolio, no matter how big it is. You can't sustain this without dividends at this rate. Scenario two, the same 50,000, but now dividends cover the interest. Spread jumps to 4.8%, about $1,040,000. Same spread, completely different math. That's what the dividends do. Scenario three, $40,000 a year, dividends covering interest, 4.8% spread, about $833,000. And that's pretty much my target. Dividend interest, borrow 40 grand a year to live off of, and nothing gets sold. Scenario four, $100,000 a year, no dividends, same as scenario one. Spread is negative. It doesn't work. Doesn't matter how much you spend, the answer is the same without dividends in the mix. So right now, let's home in on the 833,000. That number is where the math actually works for me. 40 grand a year borrowed, dividends covering the interest, nothing sold. And it only works because the dividends are in the equation. To every upside, there's a downside. Just know that this approach isn't future proof. In every market, the main risk is always getting a margin call during a market crash. If your portfolio drops 40%, your LTV can jump above maintenance limits, forcing you to deposit cash or sell your assets, even at the worst time. Keep your LTV low, ideally below 15%. And if you want to be a little more conservative, 10%, which provides a safety buffer. There's also another concern of rising borrowing rates, which can narrow or reverse your spreads. Ensure your dividends cover interest to help offset your rate increase. So where am I at and what does this mean to me? My portfolio is at around 6,700 with $110,000 borrowed, resulting in a 1.7% LTV. I'm not relying on margin to live, but to cover the bills as I grow my portfolio. My first goal is to $1 million, and then I want to go beyond that. But then at that point, at $1 million, I could borrow $40,000 annually with dividends covering the interest with no problem, and never selling my assets. Just knowing that each week I keep depositing money brings me closer to this goal. So ask yourself, how much do you need to live off margin? The honest answer is depends on your spending, your borrow rate, and whether your dividends cover the interest. But if you have a portfolio with a well-built dividend income layer, this is a real achievable target where the math actually works. If you want to follow me on my journey as I build towards that, subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you on the next one.